So first and foremost, what is your position and what are the responsibilities of your position?
Okay, yes, the position I'm running for is for Sheriff of Travis County. The sheriff is the highest elected law enforcement official in the county, who's selected, of, for, and by the people. It's a law enforcement position. It's an administrative position. The sheriff is responsible for the operation of the jail, all the cities that make arrests and that their person's arrested, the arrestee can't make bond or something, then they get transported to county jail. Or if they get sentenced after a court hearing from a county court of law, they end up at the county jail to do their time there. Or in the interim, they're being held there until they're being transported to a state facility. On top of that, the other side of the law enforcement function is the sheriff's department does a police function for the rural residents of the county. So inside your respective cities like Pflugerville, Lakeway, Austin, Lago Vista that have police departments, those police departments respond to all police functions within that incorporated city. The sheriff's department does the same thing outside of the incorporated cities.
And for the purposes of the student body, why is it important for students to vote?
Well, I mean, it's important to vote for one because it's your right. It's something that was that people have fought for and earned, and it also, a lot of people don't fully understand the effect of not voting because it gives you a voice. I mean, you're the one that gets to elect the people that represent you. And if you don't get out there and vote, then you really shouldn't have a say as far as what's going on within your community and your country and so forth. One of the things that I think we really need to work on more is getting truly engaged, not only in voting, but also in really getting to know your candidates and speaking to them and understanding what viewpoints they have and what beliefs they have, so that they're in line with what you believe and what you feel is important, and then that's how you select who you're going to support for the election.
Thank you. And what words of advice would you give to first-time voters, because the process seems a little intimidating at first?
Yes. Well, be excited. I remember when I first turned 18 and got my voter registration card, and you get to vote for the first time. There's a lot of information out there. Don't trust social media. I'll tell you that. Really get to know the candidates, and they ought to be willing and able to give you the time of day and answer questions that you may have. Because they're running for office and they're there to represent you. Now, if they get too busy and they don't really want to give you the time, that ought to be a red flag for you as a constituent, as somebody voting for somebody. But really do as much research as you can and even reach out to them if you want to, invite them and to have public forums, and then always try to get in there early. Utilize the early voting process, and be prepared to wait in line and just stick it out. Don't get bored. Don't get tired. Don't get frustrated. It's well worth it in the long run. But again, just get to know the rules and get to know who you're voting for, and then walk in and just take your time and don't be afraid to ask questions or call for help if you get stuck on something or the ballot is not responding, or if you think you have an issue or something.
So a lot of times the national election kind of drowns out sort of the news about local elections, but why is it important for students to participate in local elections?
Well, yes, the national election is what draws out a lot of the voters, and that's unfortunate because one is the local voters are the ones that truly affect your immediate and local quality of life. You know, we're having issues here in Austin, as y'all I'm pretty sure y'all have heard and seen, and you know, so there's a lot of activity going on with the election of the city council and the mayor and so forth. But again, that's where it starts there. And then don't forget your county races, like the sheriffs, like the district attorneys races, you know, and then you will move on to your state level races, your state board of education races. This year, I think, is going to be the first national election where the state of Texas has done away with straight ticket voting. So, you know, a lot of people used to just, you know, whether you're Republican or Democrat, they'd go in and just hit the Republican candidate or hit the Democrat candidate, and it would automatically select all the Democratic candidates, and you're done voting, you walk out, one switch. Now you're going to have to actually go in and pick and choose each candidate from each race. You know, so we're hoping that people really take their time and understand that there's no longer straight ticket voting, that you're going to have to take your time and vote for each candidate. And I ask you and urge you to please make sure that they do that, so that everybody has a qualified vote and is looked at seriously for the election ballots.
And on that note, these next questions are more talking about your campaign. Why are you running for sheriff?
Well, you know, I'm a retired law enforcement officer of 35 years. I did 30 and a half years with the Department of Public Safety, retired at the rank of major. I thought I was done with law enforcement. I figured I did my time, you know, and I'll let somebody else deal with all the issues. And I was fine doing that until, unfortunately, I had an incident last year, right before the election deadline, with my daughter-in-law that ended up getting arrested. My daughter-in-law got hit by a car back in 2014, and my granddaughter left her physically handicapped and mentally handicapped with severe brain injury trauma. She's got the mental capacity of a 4-year-old. She's blind in one eye. She can't use her right arm. She can't walk without assistance. She's in a depend diaper, you know, and it's just really sad, you know. But anyway, she ended up getting into an argument at a home here in Pflugerville, and ended up hitting one of the residents and the caretaker. And they called the police. 3 sheriff's deputies responded to the house and questioned my daughter-in-law, which, you know, is illegal because she doesn't have the mental faculties to answer. It's like questioning a 4-year-old. You don't question a child without the parents' consent. So, and they asked her if she knew what she did was wrong, and she said yes. So they arrested her, and they charged her with a felony assault. Got her out of her wheelchair, handcuffed her, screaming and yelling, put her in the back of the patrol car, and took her downtown for an assault charge. You know, my deal is we've got to have better understanding, better compassion, better discretion from the guys that are out there enforcing the law. You know, I kind of understand what they were doing, but it's totally in conflict with their mission statement and their core values of their agency, which tells me there's something going on in the sheriff's office that I don't feel that they're getting the proper training, the guidance, the direction. You know, expectations are not being made known. Just a whole lot of little things that are turning into big things now. And so that's why I decided to step in and try to make a change. You know, the sheriff is a friend of mine. I've known her for years. But you know, when it affects my family personally, then I take offense to it, and I'm going to try to correct it and do anything that I can to fix it. And if that happened to me, can you imagine what other things are happening out there that we don't know about? And that's why I decided to run.
That's great. It's awesome to hear how closely intertwined it is with your personal story. And how have you mentioned working in law enforcement, how have those experiences prepared you for this position?
Well, I mean, you know, I've got, like I said, 35 years of law enforcement total. I did over 13 years as a street level patrol officer, 7 years as a first line supervisor, another 7 years as a mid-level manager, and then 6 years as an executive manager of law enforcement. You know, the sheriff, the current sheriff, prior to being sheriff, law enforcement was limited. The background that she has, but anyway, so and not only my experience of 21 years in law enforcement supervision, but also I've responded to multiple disasters and emergencies throughout the state with the Department of Public Safety. I was a task force commander for Hurricane Ike when it hit Galveston a few years ago. The space shuttle disaster, I worked and coordinated that. The multiple protests and public events at the state capitol when I was in charge of Capitol Police. Dignitary protection. I mean, I've got a lot of friends that are around the state that are sheriffs and chief deputies. So I've worked in the northern, the southern, and the eastern part of the state with the DPS. So I have a lot of connections and a lot of friends that I can work with and work in conjunction with. But I just feel like my experience really, I can bring something to the table and really work to make Austin the safe, comfortable place to live that people want. Right now I don't see that. I mean, we have an issue with homelessness. We have an issue with just crime in general. And somebody needs to take a stand, and the sheriff has the authority to do that. But I don't see anything coming out of that office to step up and take that forefront. So.
And what are some of the initiatives that you think will benefit the community if you get elected? Sorry.
Well, I mean, first of all, it's the first thing that we really need to attack seriously is the homelessness issue. I mean, homelessness is extremely unfortunate, and there's got to be a fix. But we can't let people live the way that they're living out there in the conditions that they're living. That's just inhumane. That's not taking care of them. And we definitely don't want Austin to turn into another San Francisco or Portland. Just drugs being rampant, prostitution being rampant, defecation in public areas being rampant. That's what we're starting to see here. If we don't take a strong stance against it. The governor of Texas finally came in and brought in DPS troopers to help clean up the area in and around Austin, and that worked for a while. But as soon as they pulled out, it's right back where we were at before. My question is, the sheriff and their personnel have the same authority. They can come in and do that as well, but nothing. You didn't hear or see anything from the sheriff's office to come in and help and take a stand to help improve their community. I mean, their constituents are inside and outside the city, not just outside. Even though they're responsible for law enforcement functions and duties outside the incorporated cities, inside the incorporated cities are still constituents of the sheriff, and she has a responsibility to them as well.
I see. We'd also like to learn a little bit more about your own campaigning experience. So what has been the most difficult part so far of this whole campaigning season?
Well, I'm a law enforcement guy. I've never been a politician. I don't like politics. I saw the background occurrences of politics when I was in charge of Capitol Police operations there with the legislatures and the legislative sessions that came in, and it can be an ugly environment. What I'm finding is the hardest thing is because of COVID, we weren't able to get out there and really engage with the public the way we need to and the way we should. That has hindered it. I'm seeing that money has a lot to do with it, which is unfortunate. That you got to spend money to get your name out there and get your face seen, and people expect that hey, you need to do this, and that hey, you're just gonna, oh yeah, I'll pay for it. But that money's got to come from somewhere. I'm not asking people. I haven't been asking people for donations because I know with COVID, finances are tough. All I've been asking people is to really just help me and spread the word that I'm running and what my values are, and they can see my webpage and see what I stand for. Look at my career, look at what I've done, And then, hope and pray that everything goes well. If it doesn't, then it just wasn't meant to be. And I'm good with that because I'm retired and I'll just, keep on doing what I was doing. The best thing of politics that I found is, I tell you, is that I've enjoyed the most is really meeting the people that I've got to meet, in the last few months, however limited it may be. But, we've got some great people here in Travis County. And I think a lot of them really feel the same way and really want change and want to see things better and improved. So.
Definitely. And you talked about, the experience engaging with the voters. Is there like a lesson that you have that you'd like to share with us that you've gained from this entire experience?
Yes. I mean, one of the things is there's a young lady, and it just bothered me tremendously. That was at a function that I was addressing a small group to, and she was telling me that she lives inside the city of Austin in one of those high-rise buildings downtown, which aren't cheap. And she says every morning when she walks out and leaves for a run, she has to be careful, watch her back, and step over homeless people that are lying on the sidewalk outside her building. And then when she came back this one time, there was one of them inside the building, and their security officer wasn't around, so she called the police. And the police officer told her, or the Austin police told her that, they couldn't respond, that they couldn't do anything because, they were being defunded, and that, unless they're being threatened or he's attacking her or, raping her or murdering her, that they won't respond. My deal is I can't believe that a police officer would respond like that to a citizen. We're here as officers to ensure your safety and your security, regardless of what's going on. I mean, if we're working, we're getting paid one way or another. So, I mean, we hire on to help the public, and to turn them off and to put them away with an explanation like that is totally uncalled for. One of my neighbors just told me the other day that he called the sheriff's office for a noise complaint, and the supervisor called him and said, "Hey, we're not going out because of COVID." And I'm like, really? That's not good. I mean, again, we're here to protect and to serve and protect, and we need to do whatever we can to ensure that the constituents and the people and the citizens of this county and this city are receiving the service that they deserve, and expect.
Mr. Vargas, you had talked a lot about in your interview the homelessness population and the problem in Austin. What do you believe is the best solution to help clean up the streets, but also give the homeless people a place to go live?
Mm-hmm. I don't know if anybody has a solution for the problem. I kind of compare it to crime. I mean, there's crime has been happening since the days of Cain and Abel. It's always going to happen. People choose to be criminals. They make poor decisions. We have to do what we can to enforce the law and help them, of course. But they have to be willing to help themselves. I mean, I'm pretty sure there's a bunch of stuff that can be done. Unless you're in the system, you don't know what's available and what can be offered. But letting them live out there is not the answer. I mean, everybody has to work to maintain and to enjoy a living. And that's one thing we have to work with that homeless community is to see what we can put them to work at so that they can earn a living, so that they can in turn work to sustain themselves, as we all have the responsibility and to do for ourselves.
Thank you. As we wrap up this interview, is there any final key takeaways you'd like to share with the student body?
No, I mean, it's a pleasure been talking to y'all, and it's good to see y'all interested and active in politics. And you know, I met a young man here from Pflugerville that, and he started a young Republicans club. So, I mean, it's good. You know, I think the earlier we start and really engage, the better, you know, for our future. You know, I'm telling you, sometimes I really get concerned about my granddaughters, and I've got 5 of them, little, and you know, about what the future holds for them. But you know, I take comfort in seeing young people as yourselves really, you know, taking the initiative and having the interest to know what's going on in their world and learn about politics, and you know, so that we do make right choices, you know, at least the best choice that we think we can make, you know. That's all we can do in this world is try to make it better, and, you know, always leave it better than we found it if we can. You know.
Okay. Thank you so much for your time. We really enjoyed having you here.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Well, thank you all. I hope you know, hope I answered your questions and didn't ramble on too much, but really enjoyed talking to y'all and appreciate the opportunity to, you know, appear in front of y'all. And again, I ask you just, you know, talk to your parents and look at my webpage and find out what I'm about. And if they have any questions, there's an email there. They can always shoot me, or you can, and you know, I answer all of them. And